The Waldorf Essentials Thinking, Feeling, Willing program is your roadmap to success in your Waldorf homeschool journey. Gain the confidence you need, be the teacher your child wants, and transform your homeschool experience. What's included in the Thinking, Feeling, Willing program? Rhythm, inner work, temperament, the Waldorf curriculum, learning and strengthening your skills in music, circle time, form drawing, handwork, painting, drawing, modeling, festivals, reading, writing, spelling, Eurythmy, creating your own co-op, schooling several children, writing your own curriculum, and our masterclass archive.
Okay, welcome to our podcast. Today, I am super excited to be with my good friend Tiffany, who is a Waldorf mom, become Eurythmy teacher, and I just really love her, and I love her story and her walk and her path and what she does. And we work together, and we've been friends for a while. So I'm going to let her introduce herself and sort of tell you how she started, because it's not what most people would think. And then we're going to chat a little bit about the benefits of Eurythmy at home. We'll talk about what in the heck is Eurythmy, all of those things in this first part. And then our second part, we're going to go a little juicier. We're going to talk about some pitfalls, talk about some things that you can do today, right now, to get started. So, Tiffany, talk about yourself. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, so I have been homeschooling for a very, very long time. And when we first started, I was doing this school at home, basically, and struggling because
start.
What's that?
Like so many of us do when we start.
Yes. I'm like, I'm going to do this, and we're going to have this curriculum, and it's going to be, the schedule that's going to be, very rigid. And so but there were things missing, because I grew up with my grandma and my mom teaching me how to bake and cook and how to, music was a very important part of my life. And I wanted to teach my kids how to crochet and cross stitch and do all those things that I learned, but I was finding I didn't have time. And then that's when I discovered Waldorf education, which is actually a part of the curriculum. And I was so excited that I was like, this is what I've been looking for my whole life. And so we switched over and got involved with, Waldorf Essentials, and it completely changed my life. It really did. I don't know if you remember, Melissa, but when I first ever met you, I was like,
to you guys?
Yes, for that conference, that Waldorf conference, I was like, can I give you a hug? That's like one of the first things I said to you.
That was so much fun. That was so much fun. And I remember thinking, so she's teaching Eurythmy for this co-op. I need to know more. I need to know where that came about. And then I remember you gave me 2 copper rods, and I wrangled them on the airplane on the way home. And people were like, what?
That's so funny. That's so funny. So yeah. And then it got to where I was really enjoying doing the Waldorf curriculum at home. And then I started doing more research about it. And then this thing called Eurythmy. I was like, well, what is this? And I started looking into it more, and it was this movement. And I was like, perfect. That counts as PE. We can totally do this. But everywhere I turned, it was taboo. You don't talk about that at homeschool. You can't do that. You have to have a certified eurythmist teach your children.
We're trying to do surgery or something at home. It's just kind of fun.
Yes, exactly. Which, tell me I can't do surgery. I'll figure out how to do it. So there's my stubborn side. You tell me I can't do it, I'm going to find a way to do it. So that's exactly what happened. And I started to research what Eurythmy was more and more. And I just hit a whole bunch of roadblocks. And then in our co-op, we kept trying all these different kinds of movements, dance and these PE type things. And they just weren't working out, because we had a Waldorf based co-op. And so I said, well, I'm really interested in Eurythmy, and I've started that, research already. And the leader said, go for it. We love it. And so I really did a lot of digging, and I really did a lot of research. And as I did, more and more things became available, and I figured out what books to buy and read, and what classes to take, and all these things. And it opened up and started to come alive for me. And I started to teach at my co-op, the Waldorf co-op. And then I started this little voice inside my head sort of saying, you can't do this. You're not supposed to do this. What if you do this wrong?
Right.
And I went straight to Steiner, and I was like, let me go straight to Steiner's words, because this is where I'm going to find the exact direction I need. And so I started opening up visible Eurythmy, visible speech. And in there, it's all of the lectures that he gave in the very first Waldorf school. And he basically was like, look, Eurythmist, you guys are my Eurythmist. We're going to teach this to you. And as you learn, I want you to apply it. And that's when the calm just came and the peace just came, because I realized if Steiner is telling his teachers, you don't know everything right now, but just take what you're learning and apply it, then we can do that. We can do that at home. We can do that in our co-ops. Just take it you're learning and just apply the bits and pieces. And the more you learn, just keep applying it. And so that's what I did. And that's what gave me that boost. Steiner gave me the boost that I needed. I should have gone to him all along.
He always gives me that boost. I think that you know, it having a formal Waldorf education or formal Waldorf teacher education is great. I'm not saying that it's not, but at the same time, those first teachers were not Waldorf teachers. He made them Waldorf teachers.
Exactly.
The things that he taught. And we have those things available to us. If you're willing to read Steiner and dive in and understand the child and understand the spiritual aspect, there's no reason why you can't do this at home. And so, like, as you were walking, did you find like some mentors that decided, oh, wait, it doesn't have to be taboo?
Absolutely. And I was terrified of doing it wrong. And so I started to reach out. We had a Waldorf school in Charleston, which is 2 hours away from us. And I went with some friends and visited that school, and they had a Eurythmist there. And I started talking with her, and I'm like, am I doing this right? And like, I would lay out my lesson for her and I'd show her, you know, the alphabet that was according to me. And she's like, yes, absolutely. And I started asking her questions, and she started showing me things, and she was extremely helpful and supportive. And I was very shocked to find a Eurythmist that was supportive. She's like, yes, you need to do this at your co-op. You need to do this. And so I would email her back and forth, you know, with some questions. And she was, you know, wonderful and helpful. And also Reg Down, I've emailed him back and forth a couple times. And, you know, he's just shared some of his journey.
Pretty great. He's
great.
I am so impressed with these like lifelong Waldorf teachers that have retired, and you know, they've written books. Of course, they've written them for not just teachers, they've written them for us homeschoolers, and they love it when we reach out to them. That's how, I mean, your relationship with Reg Down is a lot like my relationship with Eric Fairman. I started writing him right before I started the first grade curriculum, and he was like, go, you should do it. Like, go. And he wrote the foreword in our first grade, because he was like, yes, we need this. If Steiner wanted the world to have this for all children, why would we just keep it in the school? So I think there are some teachers that really catch the vision of the sense of sharing it. So no,
and exactly like with what you're saying, there is nothing wrong with being a Waldorf certified teacher. That is absolutely fantastic. You know, you have no doubt. Yes. However, who is handing you that certificate? Is it Rudolf Steiner himself, or is it a man that's saying, okay, now you've learned enough, you can go teach it? And so that's something else that opened up for me, was that, is there a man telling me that, okay, you can do this? Who is he? When Eurythmy is a spiritual art, you know, comes from God, comes from upper, you know, your higher source, whatever that may be, whether it's God, Mother Nature, you know, the cosmos.
Yep. Your creator.
Who assigned this man to tell us whether we can or can't, you know? So I think that
I'm all about breaking the rules all the time. I'm totally about breaking those rules. I'm like, you know what? Don't tell me I can't do that.
You have to listen to your angels. Eurythmy is all about that. Waldorf education is all about that. Reading the child and listening to their angels. And if your angel is speaking to you and telling you, this is your calling, go. Doors and the windows will be flown open for you. And that is exactly what has happened for me. Just, it's the whole house has been opened up and knocked down.
When we met, you were just getting some steam. I think you had just been to that school. You had just been talking to those people, and you were so excited because you could finally like feel like you were validated in a way, but in a different way, that somebody said, yes, you're doing it right. And I remember you were so excited, and that comes through the teacher. it gives the people that are taking those lessons, the parents, or, you know, definitely the children, but for the parents, as we're learning it, it gives them confidence because we're leaning on your confidence and you're like, yes, you can. And that is like such a huge thing. It's so different when you say, I am teaching you so you can teach others, rather than, well, I'm just teaching you so that you can learn and not do anything with it.
You can
Right?
check a box and move on.
So this is so beautiful. I love your story.
So yeah, that's basically my story in a nutshell. And I try to always continue my education and continue my learning and deepen it and broaden it, because and I say broaden it because as I learn more about other aspects of Waldorf, it just ties back to Eurythmy. Everything ties together. I say Eurythmy is the water. You've got all these, especially like with education, you've got like your math and you've got your, and they tie together too. But Waldorf is like the water that gets poured in and just mixes it all together and makes it all just come together. And I think to have a complete Waldorf education, you have to have Eurythmy, which is why I was so stubborn in the beginning. I was like, I've got to do this for my kids. And that's the other thing, is you're not going to mess up.
No, I don't
There's
think
no such thing as ruining your kids because you did Eurythmy wrong. I just want to say that right now.
I agree. I remember when Melanie and I, in 2020, when Melanie and I were having this conversation, she called me on the phone and she was like, and I had known her. She was one of our Thinking, Feeling, Willing leaders. And so we had talked before, but she called me and she's like, I have this friend in Utah who wants me to teach third grade to a pot of kids. And I said, if we just teach the world. And it was like the wheels started turning. And then we were thinking like, well, who can do this and who can do that? And I said, and I know somebody who can teach Eurythmy. and it was just funny because we all just, it was such a beautiful space then, because we really wanted to bring this to as many people as could have it. And I love it. I love it.
And that shows you right there, listening to the angels and doing what you're called to do. Because if you force it, it's not going to happen. But if it is your calling, look how beautiful this has turned out and how wonderful Seasons of Seven is. And Thinking, Feeling, Willing, it's just all so beautiful. It is soul changing. It's life changing.
It is. And you know, what's funny is Thinking, Feeling, Willing started from not an irritation, but for me sitting thinking, I answer the same freaking questions like every day. What did I put together? And this was before online courses or anything. Thinking, Feeling, Willing started with a blog. And then like a private blog. And I just remember thinking, all right, well, what are all the questions that I get? And I just made content around that. And then it grew to what it is now. And it's continually growing. So I just love it. I love it. And I love your part in it, because we have such, the pieces that you have given us for Eurythmy at Home are pretty darn amazing in Thinking, Feeling, Willing. And I think that's such a beautiful place for parents to get started. But let's talk about why Eurythmy. Why Eurythmy? And you said you had a great explanation about Eurythmy. So
why Eurythmy? The benefits of Eurythmy, why it is so important. Okay, so I'm just going to give you the short answer first.
Okay.
It is healing. It strengthens not only your physical body, but your spiritual and your mental, your emotional, like all those things. It can strengthen them. It can support them. We have concentration exercises, which we're moving while we're trying to think. We have coordination exercises, which is, right and left and trying to, trick our brains, but yet still have everything work. We have polar opposites, which are so wonderful. I can't think of a grade that polar opposites are not important with young kids, that they need to feel out and they need to feel in. And as well as, the older grades, especially as they go through these growth spurts and their bodies are clumsy and they feel weird and they don't want to move, we need to get out, we need to get big, and we need to pull in. And so Eurythmy benefits that. And like I said, it brings the whole curriculum together. So that was my short answer.
Okay.
I'm going to explain what this means now. So if someone walks in a room and you're, say, working on your computer or something, and they're grumpy, without even turning to look at them, you can feel it.
Oh.
Why? Why do you feel that? When someone says, I love you, you just melt. Why? It is because that is their etheric. There is power in our etheric body. I am moving not just because I'm made of sand and stone and of the things of the earth. I am moving because I have willpower within me. I have this life force within me, and that is our etheric body. Rudolf Steiner said, PE is exercise for your physical body. Eurythmy is gymnastics for the soul. And so it strengthens our etheric body. Now, why is that important? Okay, yeah. So there's like this spiritual aspect. Okay, but think about this. If someone tells you you're dumb, you're stupid, you're an idiot, what's going to happen? You're going to have this cortisol start pumping through your body and like all these stress hormones. And then what's going to happen? You're going to get sick. Well, why is that? Because I didn't inject a poison into you. I didn't inject sickness into you.
The terrain became injured when somebody and you took that in. When somebody
it was your etheric, exactly. That is affecting your physical body. It's your emotions. It's your feeling life. So if someone tells you you're beautiful and wonderful and amazing, I think you're so fantastic, we start having serotonin and all these feel-good chemicals pumping through our body, and suddenly we are just like invincible and can do anything, and we're healthy and we're strong. There was actually a study done with rabbits, and they fed them like this really high concentrated fat diet. I think they were doing a heart study, and they had like 5 groups of rabbits, and after their time period, the rabbits were very sick and very fat and lethargic. They could hardly move except for this one group of rabbits. And they were like, well, this is weird, because they were all the same breed. They were all about the same age. Like, what is going on? And then they couldn't make sense of it, because they were like checking the needles and checking the syringes that were feeding them. They're like, what is going on? So they redid the study again, and it happened again. They're like, what is going on? Then they turned to the lab assistants who were feeding the rabbits. Well, those one group, the lady was going in and talking to them and picking them up and holding them and feeding them and loving them. Their etherics were being fed. That is what we do in Eurythmy. We feed our Eurythmy, or our etheric soul. And so in strengthening our etheric, we're not only just strengthening our etheric, we're strengthening our physical bodies as well. That's why it's so important to young kids. They get Eurythmy. They might not understand what they're doing, but we do the exercises that helps them while their organs are still trying to grow and function. And as you get older and you go through puberty and a whole set of new hormones and chemicals are pumping through your body, we do stuff to feed that through feeding our etheric. And so that is the long version of the benefits of the Eurythmy, because I wanted to paint the picture, because it is not just about exercising our body so that our heart stays strong. We have to feed our soul as well. If we don't do that, we will get sick. And we're just treating this, and we're just putting band-aids on it, when we can have the power to control it and to help it feed it. So that's the benefit.
I find that even this much Eurythmy is a little bit of a vitamin. Like, even if you're not doing all the things, pick 1 or 2 things.
Yes.
Do something.
Yeah. I mean, just doing a little bit, like you said.
Like a little vitamin.
It does more than you think. Just a little bit. Yes.
Love it.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so people can find Eurythmy for home. And I know there's probably, I know there's some other programs out there, but they're crazy expensive. So you can find Eurythmy at home in our Seasons of 7 fourfold enrichment, and you get Eurythmy, you get American Sign Language, you get music, you get handwork, which is, I mean, there's such beautiful pieces that people often forget when it comes to homeschooling. Oh no, I can just leave that. I don't have to do that. But these are the vitamins for the soul. These are the pieces that really
exactly. Yes.
And they can also get it in our Thinking, Feeling, Willing program. So will you talk a little bit about, before we go into our next segment, talk a little bit about what you do, like generally at Seasons of 7, and then also what generally you have in Thinking, Feeling, Willing for families.
So what I do at Seasons of 7, and that's
just basics.
Backtracking just a little bit, there are other programs out there, but you don't get the support. And yes, I'm promoting, but at the same time, I wouldn't do it if I didn't believe wholeheartedly in it. So at seasons of 7, you get, it's like I said before, it's hand fed to you.
Right.
If Eurythmy is just
tailored for that age, it's tailored for the children that are in that.
exactly,
Because
they're
you do
going
class
through
1 all the way next year to class 11.
Yes, I'm so excited for class 11. I've been looking forward to that from the beginning. Class 11 is, yeah. But exactly. So each grade is going through developmental things. And with Eurythmy specifically, I mean, all the enrichment classes are tailored to help feed their souls. But especially when it comes to Eurythmy, we work on what are they going through right now? What do they need help? What kind of support do they need as they're going through this change? And then what can we ignore and what can we strengthen? And so we've got all these things that we're taking into consideration when we're doing Eurythmy. And so that's why seasons of 7 is so fantastic, because you have your lesson, your pre-recorded video that you watch. Okay, that's great. And a lot of places have that, where you have the video. However, we have a Zoom aspect where the kids will come and I work with them and I see how it's working with them. And I can see, like, we learn how to read the child. That's what we talk about in Waldorf education, is reading the child. And even through Zoom, because your soul is not limited by your physical body, it can stretch out and through and beyond. So I'm reaching out to these children and I'm seeing what is working, what is not, because every first grade class is not going to be the same.
Right.
And so this class is very lively. And so we need to meet them where they're at and bring them in, because their etherics are way out here. So we need to bring it in a little bit. Or we have some that are very shy and quiet and we need to pull them out. And so that's the beautiful part about it, is that with Zoom, we're not just teaching to a first grade class. We're teaching first grade things, but we're also seeing where it's affecting.
Very tailored to the kids that are in front of you, which is my favorite part that, that we're doing at seasons of 7. All of the teachers, they have elements that they reuse every year, but they bring it then current they add things for the kids that are in front of them. And then those Zooms really help bring it all together and really help you guys connect with each other. And you also connect with the parents.
Exactly.
So
exactly. And so Eurythmy is not just a taboo thing. I've talked to a lot of parents that have put their children in a Waldorf brick and mortar school, which I think is fantastic. But the parents are like, I have no idea what Eurythmy is. And so we have parent office hours.
Schools don't have Eurythmy. There are so many schools that don't have Eurythmy or have a eurythmist once a quarter.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I have office hours all year long, and parents can come and I answer any questions that they may have. I've had parents like have concerns. Like one mom is like, my son's just sitting there staring and I can't get him to get up and do and I said, well, what is his temperament? And she's like, well, what do you mean? So it opened up the whole thing, and come to find out he's phlegmatic. And so he wanted to study it first before he got up and moved. And I said, well, I don't have a problem with him in Zoom. He gets up and he moves, so yeah. And not like I have some classes that are very, very stoic and serious. And so I have to try really hard to bring that humor out, because you have to have humor and it has to be fun. Then I have some that are just way too playful.
Oh, that's great. That's funny. So that covers seasons of 7. What sorts of things, if somebody signs up for Thinking, Feeling, Willing, what sorts of things can they expect from those?
Okay. And so Thinking, Feeling, Willing is also fantastic. We've done a lot with Thinking, Feeling, Willing. That I think is for homeschool moms that know how to do their research. Because I have the videos and things that we have given with Thinking, Feeling, Willing is a jump start.
Right.
And I remember as we were doing the videos, Melissa's like, stop, don't give them too much. I'm like, oh, this is just the tip of the iceberg, I promise you. So I've given it to you because those were the things when I first began were very hard to find. And so I've given it to you so that it just can jumpstart you. You've got the basics here. Now take it and run. Do some more research, read some more books, and Eurythmy will begin to unfold for you. So those are your 2 things: Thinking, Feeling, Willing. Get you kick-started if you know how to do your research, but at the same time, if you want to homeschool, but it's just something that's scary to you, which it shouldn't be, you have seasons of 7. So yeah.
No, I think it's perfect. I think it's perfect. I appreciate you so much. We're going to go ahead and close this segment, and then we're going to dive into the other segment. We're going to talk a little bit about maybe some challenges you've had and Definitely, we're also gonna talk about a few things you can do to get started like today. So if you want to join us in our other segment, you can catch us over at Patreon. We thank you for coming for this one, and we hope you have a wonderful day. Find our Patreon at Ariel's Light. So Ariel's Light, if you haven't heard already, is the ministry that we started this year. Interfaith, so we welcome people of all faiths to come and experience and converse and really get to know this conscious parenting space. I see it as a space for people that might be deeply into their religion, like being able to go deeper in what that parent-child relationship means. And then people that are just trying to figure out, like, what does this inner work journey mean to me? You're in that space, and I've been there. You're trying to figure out, well, how do I bring what's welling up inside me to my children so that they aren't lost in confusion, so that they actually have this piece of goodness and beauty that Steiner always talks about. So the ministry has roots of anthroposophy, and we will be talking about things from an anthroposophical standpoint, but also really bringing you good content that you can bring into your life